Hi there. So it's mid-May. I thought it was time to do another little video. We've got a little bit of a guest here. We've got Ollie. He's come over to say hi. He loves a cuddle. He's getting a wee old boy. He's nearly 13. Right, so today's talk's just a little bit of a catch-up. I'm not long home from a fantastic day over at St Andrew's Hospice. St Andrew's Hospice, for those of you who don't know, have got a fantastic outpatients department. It's not as grim as it sounds. When you first hear the word hospice, you think, oh no, I'm not going there. There is a lovely outpatients department at the back of the building for people with life-limiting conditions, such as MS, Parkinson's disease, stroke, various other conditions, anything that's limiting your life in any sort of way. You can get access to strength and balance, Tai Chi, complementary therapy, wellness classes, fatigue management, all sorts of classes there. There's also the MS support group that I've mentioned before. That's taken by Laura once a month, and that next one is on the 18th of June. So that's over at St Andrew's Hospice in Airdrie. Don't be put off by the name, as I say. It's a great service. So I was at the MS information today over there today. Information day even. A bit of brain fog there. So there was various people doing guest talks. There was someone from North Lanarkshire Council talking about the Active NL programme that you can access. You get 12 weeks free access to the sports centres, gyms, swimming, health suite. You can get access to certain health classes if you need, like strength and balance, or I think they've got back class, move more for people with cancer. They've got a few things. So that was interesting to hear too. I've tried these classes before, they're quite good. More so if you're getting them for free. And so aside from that, there was also someone from Revive and Neurophysio telling you about the services on offer there. Another amazing place that I would highly recommend. They do a lot of services. They do counselling, they do, which obviously I'm mentioning first as a therapist myself. They do counselling, they do there I go, blank again. They've got physiotherapy, they've got a number of classes. I think there's about 21, I think he said, of gym classes, Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates. What else is there? They've also got a benefit advisor, they've got a nurse, they've got a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I've not accessed it myself, I've got asthma, so you think you would need for me personally, I would need a medical note to say that it was safe for me to get that. But like I say, an amazing service right here in central Scotland. Since I last spoke, I've also started a Facebook group that's called MS Support Central Scotland. Not got very many in it just now, so if you want to pop along to MS Support Central Scotland, I'll get you added to the group, and then we can keep in touch. We can talk about things that's available in the area. I'm also going to put some slides on there later from a talk that I done over today over at Revive. So Graham, a friend of mine, and myself, we both done a talk as someone who's experienced MS. I'm actually going to read it to you just now what actually the talk was about. I've got it written down. I didn't read it today. Once I stood up in front of everyone, I totally forgot to look at what I'd written down. So I'm going to give you it just now. This is what my talk was on, right? So basically just on my own experience, so there will be some overlap with some of the things I've mentioned before. I'll take the glasses off because I'm too busy looking here to look there. So pre-diagnosis, so 2.5 years ago almost since I was diagnosed. First symptoms for me was like dead leg, falls, staggering, memory. I was getting checked for things like, I can't even remember the name of it, dementia, poor balance, worsening bladder. I've had bad bladder issues since I was about 18, 19, 20, so it's been ongoing for over 30 years. And back pain, this was all missed by orthopaedics and picked up by NHS Physio, which I've mentioned before, and it's been steady decline for me since the get-go. They suspect I've had MS for at least 16, 17 years. And then the process of diagnosis for me I've mentioned before, so I won't get into it too deep. Just once you get to see a neurologist, it's all quite quick from there. From the neurology, then you're referred to an MS specific neurologist, and in between that you get your MRIs. I had 3 and a lumbar puncture. That you need to follow something called the McDonald criteria in order to get a diagnosis. So it was basically they look at a combination of your symptoms and your history. So I'd only had basically progressive decline, and all of the symptoms became obvious at once by the time I got to the age of 50. But looking back, 4 or 5 years for definite, where I was really struggling. 3 years before I was diagnosed, I was already using a crutch, and I can probably think back to at least 8 years ago when the symptoms were probably fairly obvious, and people probably just thought I was drunk because I was walking about so staggery. I couldn't walk in a straight line. I still can't walk in a straight line. My balance is ridiculous, but I do try. Right, so the next I talked about coming to terms with MS. For me, it was about struggling for the first year, and the biggest thing for me, which I probably didn't mention much today, was the word progressive. Been told that you've got either primary progressive MS or secondary progressive MS. For me personally, I think the word progressive is so damaging. I just wish they would change that in the diagnosis name. It just takes away all hope. It makes you feel lost. It makes you feel like there's nothing you can do, because you automatically think, I'm going to keep getting worse, I'm going to end up in a wheelchair, and you start jumping to the worst case scenario. It doesn't need to be that way, and I think that as long as you can hold on to hope, that you can stay ahead of it. So medication, I talked about how I'm on amitriptyline. I wasn't on a DMT, disease modifying therapy, for the first 11 months because I didn't have any active lesions. By the time I got my second MRI 11 months later after the diagnosis, I say my second MRI, this was my fourth, there was a massive amount of new activity and new active lesions, so I was put on Alcrevis, which is the only approved disease modifying therapy for primary progressive MS. I've been on that now for a year and a half. I'm due my next infusion very soon. In terms of other things, what I would say is, if you need antidepressants, you need support, mental health, definitely seek that out, okay? The emotional impact for me was persistent sadness and grief and anxiety and loss of independence. For me, the anxiety comes from the amount of overthinking you need to do when you're going out of the house. It's like, am I going to be near a toilet? Am I going to be able to stand up for long? How far am I going to be able to walk? What if I can't get parked near the door? I have that anxiety and fear every time I go somewhere. So going places that I'm used to, and places that I'm familiar with, is always a plus. You will go through the stages of grief. You will go through all the stages like denial, bargaining, acceptance, depression. You'll go through all these stages. It's not a linear process. You might go through them more than once before you come to terms with it. And like I said today, I don't think I've ever fully came to terms with it. I've not came to terms with it completely. And accepting it for me isn't about accepting that I have MS. It's about accepting it's there. I don't feel like I have MS. I feel like the MS is there and I'm here, and I accept it's there. It lives alongside me, but I don't want it to become who I am. I don't want it to overshadow who I am, and that's what it was doing for a long time. What helps me, I think in terms of what helps me, the biggest thing for me has been peer support. I've made lifelong friends through having MS. I've met a few people over at St Andrew's Hospice. I've met people through over Revive MS support. I've made friends for life. I've made friends in other support groups and other places where I've met people, and it's so vitally important because these people understand what I'm going through. I don't need to tell them what's wrong. I don't need to explain. They just understand, and that's so important. One of the people I mentioned already, Graham, who was there today doing another talk, fantastic talk again. I would recommend that you check out his podcast, Descent into EMS, brilliant podcast, so definitely worth a listen. The other things that I feel helps is, I've mentioned before, exercise is so important. It's important to keep your mood lifted, it's important to lower fatigue, help stress. And for me, the main thing that I feel exercise does is it makes me feel like I'm doing something. It makes me feel like I'm physically fighting against MS. It shouldn't need to be like you're fighting out against MS, but unfortunately that's just the new normal. If every day you need to get up and you need to fight, just keep fighting. Right, so physio was another one. Sunshine, as you can see. It's vitamin D. If you're not getting your sunshine, if you're trying to take vitamin, make sure you take your vitamin D, omega-3 or flaxseed oil. keep an eye on your diet. I've cut out dairy, I've cut out fried foods, I've increased oily fish. I noticed days where I eat, like when I was eating macaroni cheese, I was feeling really lethargic, I was really struggling, I could hardly lift my legs. So I as an experiment, I cut it out, and it has given me improvements. I'll have it as a treat, but not very often, okay? Limit stress, not easy to do, but vitally important. Stress is a huge thing, and for me, I think stress was my environmental trigger that led to MS. Counselling, you can get counselling or CBT therapy over at Revive MS Support. It's an open door policy. You can self-refer. You can go back anytime you need to. And helping others was a huge thing for me. So in terms of continuing to do CBT, helping other people with MS, starting the Facebook group, this YouTube channel, keeping the studying. So I've done my dissertation on CBT for progressive MS and newly diagnosed, and that was important for me because it was something that I was really interested in, and I thought I could use that interest in academia. So the last couple of things I have here is the perspective I have. So I would say don't dwell in the past. It's so difficult. I dwelled in the past for so long. I lived in the past. My mental health was in a decline all of the time. I was constantly on edge, high alert, very anxious, scared to leave the house. But what I would say to you is don't dwell and appreciate the little things. Don't dwell on everything, but appreciate the little things in your life. Appreciate a sunny day, a rainbow, and a dark sky filled with rain. When you meet your friends, that feeling of when you meet someone who just gets you, listening to a song on the radio that lifts your mood. These are the glimmers, and I really can't say enough how much you need to look for these glimmers in your day. These are what will keep you going. Right? So live to the full if possible, even if that looks different now, and don't be too proud to ask for support. So my message of hope would be, MS can feel all-consuming and isolating, but it doesn't define who you are. Praise your small victories, even if all that was today was getting out of bed, and don't let it beat you. Cry, get angry, but always get back up. Science is always moving forward. It's moving forward more now than it's ever been, and I really do believe there will be a cure one day. And that belief and that hope is what keeps me going, gets me out of bed in the morning. So the last message I would want to stress is just know that you're not alone. And if I've said before, if anyone wants to reach out to me on YouTube or on my MS group or email, just send me a message and we can have a chat, we can have a meet up, we can have a coffee. Don't ever feel alone. I'm here if you want to talk, okay? Thank you. Enjoy the lovely day.